Before starting any new health program or before you begin taking any medication or supplement, always check with your primary health care provider.
Celiac disease can seem like an overwhelming challenge since the only recognized therapy is really a gluten-free diet, and that's for life. 9 food products, including peanuts, almonds, milk, and eggs, are responsible for 95% of all allergic reactions. Remember, that's IgE mediated. Which foods should you avoid and which foods should you be eating? Joining me now is Alexandra Anka. She's a registered dietitian and author, and Fran Earl, owner of Molly B's Gluten-Free Kitchen. We've heard a lot from Alexandra tonight. I want to start with you. Nice to join us on the show tonight, Fran.
Thank you.
You've got a great story, a number of good stories, but a personal story as to how you got into this whole realm of gluten-free. Why don't you share this with me?
Well, it starts years ago when I was quite young. I used to have terrible stomach aches, and doctors always said I had a nervous stomach and left it at that. Well, it wasn't until, I had the flu very, very badly. I was off food for about 2 weeks, and this is going back to 2001. When I was able to eat again, I craved bagels, breads, anything.
Sure.
And unfortunately, what happened is the minute I ate one, and I'd been away from total gluten for 2 weeks, it stopped in my throat and then just projectile. I couldn't believe it. And I was in denial for about 2 or 3 months where I went back to gluten and was quite ill. And then I decided to go off gluten, and all these symptoms that I'd had for years disappeared.
Interesting.
The weight gain I'd had, well, that wasn't coming off so easy because, unbeknownst to me, I developed a thyroid issue. But what I did notice was I had been diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 13. And I used to have all these tremors. And suddenly these tremors, and I'm on pills, but I keep forgetting them, and I wasn't doing the right thing. But the tremors were totally gone.
A lot of the symptoms disappeared.
I'm off gluten, and all these tremors disappear. So I did a very unorthodox thing, and I don't recommend anybody do
never
this.
stop your pills.
Never.
Always talk to your doctor.
It's very common, and most people who have gone on a gluten-free diet find it so hard to go back on a gluten challenge in order to get tested and absolutely refuse to.
Sure.
But the complication is you'll never really know whether you have celiac disease and you have to keep the gluten-free diet 100% of the time, or whether you have a gluten sensitivity, where excluding gluten from the major sources, breads, pastas, and so on, is good enough, where you don't need to be as diligent.
And at the break, Alexandra, you mentioned that there is somewhat of an association in the books, in the literature, with Fran's sort of epilepsy, other people's epilepsy, and gluten talk.
Neurological disorders such as epilepsy or mood disorders, gait disturbances are all associated symptoms with celiac disease.
All right.
Absolutely.
So now Molly B Gluten-Free comes along. You've developed this whole line of excellent baked goods. You know, in fact, I got a quick story too. We're going to go right back to the phone lines. I'll go to Il Fornello once in a while, and it's a really nice spread for the buffet. Take my son, and they make these gluten-free pizzas there, and they're delicious. In fact, the owner says a lot of times people order the gluten-free because it tastes better than the gluten. And lo and behold, I found out only recently it's Molly B Gluten-Free that manufactures these things. So, you know, I'm excited to have you on their show. No, it's excellent stuff. Let's go back to the phone line. Stephanie from Toronto's calling in. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Bryce.
How are you?
Okay, my question tonight is, what happened to me was I had my son a year ago. Prior to my pregnancy, they found a lump on my thyroid. It came back that it was benign. I have no thyroid disease. A couple months, so I had my son, then I had a C-section. A couple months after that, I started feeling horrible with headaches, gut pains, everything. I went to an allergist, and he took a test, and it came back that I'm almost allergic to almost everything. The main allergies are wheat, dairy, and eggs.
Okay.
Now, after cutting out the wheat and the eggs and everything, I feel great, but other alternatives was spelt and rye when it came to bread, and they actually made me feel worse than wheat. So I think that I have celiac disease. I'm going to get tested next week for it.
Or possibly the intolerance to gluten that we were talking about, more of the sensitivity to gluten, the IgG or sensitivity that you need to get tested, for example, at a naturopathic doctor's office. So there's that whole possibility. Also, let's not forget, during pregnancy, you know, you're sort of immunosuppressed a little bit. Certain things happen. After pregnancy, things change.
Yes.
There is the connection between thyroiditis and gluten intolerance. All this matches, Stephanie. You might not have the full-blown celiac, and this is one of our messages we want to drive home tonight. You might be gluten sensitive or, you know, have unbeknownst to you other things. Let's remind people, gluten is found in
wheat, barley, rye, spelt, kamut, or triticale, which is not a very well-known grain, but certainly.
Right, and so you might want to check out the Molly B gluten-free line, and, you know, but again, the caveat is, don't stop all gluten-containing foods unless you've done the gold standard biopsy with a gastroenterologist referred by your family doctor. And I really hope that that helps, Stephanie. On to Evelyn before we go to break. Evelyn's calling from Mississauga. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Bryce. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. I love your show.
Thank you.
My question is, do vaccines cause food allergies?
That's a hugely loaded question. I mean, the quick and dirty, I would suggest, is no. I don't know of any evidence to suggest that. Vaccinations in some ways in certain individuals can upset under certain situations an immune system, maybe predispose you more to what you're otherwise already predisposed to. But that's a whole other argument, and I would never make a direct correlation between vaccines and food sensitivities. I don't know what your feelings are.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Well, maybe we'll get from Dr. Selleck right after the break. She'll be joining us back, naturopathic doctor. Maybe she has an opinion for that, Evelyn. I hope that that helps. Molly B gluten-free. You're giving away some free stuff this evening. Yes. I love the line. My son looks forward to this every week or two when he gets to come with me to the organic market where you have a table. And that's where is that again?
That's at the Waldorf Market.
The Waldorf Market.
Yeah, 9100
on Bathurst Street. Yeah, so come in and meet Fran there. It's time for our final break, and when we come back, we'll discuss food. We'll do a focus on food allergies, continue this, and sensitivities, and of course, a specific relationship to children. And I'll share with you my final recommendations, plus some more of your calls, questions, and emails. Give us a call right now and stay with us.
Reach us in the GTA by dialing 416-872-2724 or outside the area at 1-888-863-2724. Send an email to wildeonhealth@cp24.com or follow Bryce on Twitter by visiting cp24.com.
Anaphylaxis is a serious allergic reaction. It can develop within seconds of exposure to a trigger, with symptoms including itching, hives, or swelling of the lips or face. The throat may begin to close, choking off breathing, and it can be life-threatening. So absolutely go to the emergency room if you ever experience that. Current estimates are that food allergies affect as many as 6% of young children. Children and youth must learn how to avoid the allergen that causes their reaction. They must also be prepared to manage an unexpected reaction. And joining me now are Dr. Sarah Selleck, naturopathic doctor, and Lisa Bardanian, and she's a registered dietitian at the Hospital for Sick Children, and she also works at the specialty food shop there. Thanks for joining the show, Lisa.
Thanks for having me.
So what is it that you're doing there?
So I work in the specialty food shop. I'm one of the dietitians, and we see patients in the store for very brief consults, and we offer a wide variety of products. So we have a lot of allergen-free products, gluten-free products, and we're definitely getting lots of questions from families, from parents, wondering what kind of products are out there for their kids with multiple food allergies.
So you're right there in the front lines. Good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, previously a practicing dietitian, now answering questions at Sick Kids. I mean, there must be a huge need for this if Sick Kids has got a specialty store right there within it. What's happening at the school system level? I mean, this has got to be really hard for a lot of parents. I know that first line because I experience, a lot of questions in clinic, but you must see the droves.
For sure. There is a law that was actually put in place in January 2006 called Sabrina's Law. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. So basically schools have to be prepared for any kids who may potentially have allergies, pictures of the children in the school, along with a list of which allergies is an issue for them. And then the teachers have to all be educated on how to administer an EpiPen if needed. So this is just to protect children, parents to feel a bit more comfortable sending their kids off to schools. And a lot of schools are also nut-free, that being one of the biggest allergens amongst kids these days. So just to try to eliminate.
I see it in my kids' school. They're doing artwork about peanuts and peanut allergies. And by the way, latest research, I don't know if you know this, twin injections versus the single injection of EpiPen seems to be more accurate. It seems to be that the life-saving effect comes from the second one administered, just an FYI out there. Dr. Silic, what is it, as it relates to vaccines and allergies? I wanted to answer this previous caller's question. Is there any link?
I haven't seen a link.
Yeah, okay, nor have I. I just wanted to ask you that, get that out there. I have a question from an email here from Chris, and Chris is asking a great question, which is, what is a great fiber substitute if it is indeed gluten-free? Do you guys have any opinion? Because it's really important. Gluten-free, but fiber. Fiber is so important for heart health, digestive health. So what are the recommendations?
Well, I would suggest adding chia seeds.
Chia is great. Essential fats in there.
It's fantastic, and you can get some extra fiber there.
For sure. Another good idea is to choose the brown rice breads and pastas as a good way to get some fiber as well.
Okay, great.
And rice cereals.
And that's not constipating for a lot of people?
Well, it's important when you're increasing the fiber in your diet to also increase the water.
Absolutely. Good point. And some essential fats maybe all at the same time to help keep it loose. Dr. Selick, how do people know, either in a restaurant setting or maybe something at home that they're questioning, or a product that we're looking at here on the table, if it's gluten-free?
Well, most are labeled.
Okay.
So crackers labeled right on it, wheat-free and gluten-free.
Okay, and if they're even that much more suspicious?
Absolutely. So we have a test. It's the Easy Gluten Test.
Yep.
And you can test your food.
Yeah, in a restaurant setting.
Absolutely. It takes a few minutes, and you'll have an answer.
So if you don't trust the waiter?
Yes. Whether or not there's gluten in your food, I would say keep it safe. Buy the test and test your food.
Because there are also hidden, gluten factors, right? I mean, what are some of them?
There's definitely hidden sources, especially when you're eating out in restaurants. There can be hidden sources of gluten, so it's always important to ask questions. And if you're unsure, don't eat it. Always
Can we
better
name
to
some of
leave
them?
something
TVP,
out.
for example, texturized vegetable protein, soy sauce. What else?
Licorice.
Licorice, absolutely.
Like it's just hidden in so many
seasonings.
things.
Even a lot of seasonings.
A lot of
can have
seasonings.
gluten.
Cosmetics, absolutely.
Yes.
Let's get to another call here. We've got a few. Hope we can get through them. Wanda's calling from Whitby. Wanda, if you can hurry with your question, we'll answer it.
Hi there. I love your show.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, I have celiac disease, and I also have type 1 diabetes.
Aha. Yes, there's that correlation now that's known.
There seems to be a correlation. I was just wondering what that may be.
Well, immune system correlation. Dr. Selick, do you want to go off with that, or?
Well, it is linked to the immune system, of course, and when you have a sensitivity or celiacs, you have a weakened immune system. So that's what the correlation is.
It's a confused immune system. It's an autoimmune condition. The correlation's just high between celiac, or let's call it gluten intolerance, severe gluten intolerance, and almost any autoimmune condition. I mean, there's a strong sensitivity, a strong reaction there. How are you doing with all that, Wanda?
It's a little confusing. I also have a thyroid issue, which
well, that's all connected as well.
To your show, and I hear that's also common. So.
Absolutely. Well, we wish you all the best with it. Molly, be gluten-free, let me tell you. Excellent products. You can have pizza again. Not too much of it if you have the thyroid issue, but I wish you well. Deborah, do we have time for one more call? Deborah in Bolton, go ahead.
Hi, I was wondering, you mentioned about fiber. Can celiac take like a fiber substitute, like maybe Metamucil or something like that?
Elisa, can somebody with celiac take Metamucil?
Yes, they definitely can.
Yes, there you go. Real quick. Guys, thanks so much for joining me. I know it's fast and furious. Pleasure to have you on the show, and thanks so much to my other guests. My final recommendations tonight, there's no longer any doubt that food sensitivities exist. What remains to be discovered is the most accurate way to test for them. If you cannot afford the hundreds of dollars it takes to run blood work, because it is a few hundred at least, then at the very least consider a hypoallergenic diet that restricts at least gluten, dairy, red meat, corn, eggs, soy, nuts, and nightshade family of vegetables. I know it's a long list, but that's a place to start. If you have food sensitivities, these foods are the most likely to aggravate the immune system. Work with a professional to reintroduce these foods one at a time to determine whether you have a reaction to any or, in fact, all of them in some cases. And tune in this Tuesday, February the 15th, to the Marilyn Dennis Show, where I'll be talking about an anti-fatigue plan, how to achieve optimal energy in your day from morning to evening. For more on today's show, or to watch previous episodes of Wylde on Health, and to review today's or my previous recommendations to these episodes, go to cb24.com/wildhealth. Thank you all so much for watching, and be well.